course, we are live on all of our platforms. So thank you so much for being here on this beautiful, beautiful Friday. It's Friday, Friday, Friday. Folks, I am Bishop James Long with the United States Old Catholic Church. Now, there's a couple things. Let me just get this out of the way before we get into the meat and potatoes of the show. First of all, we're having severe wind issues in Kentucky. Up to 75-mile-per-hour wind gust, and it is crazy. It is crazy. So I'm just going to give you heads up right now that is possible. I might lose electricity. I don't know. I lost it earlier today, but it was only for like 10 minutes we lost electricity. But we are really, the wind gusts are just crazy. So I'm just giving you heads up now. I don't anticipate losing electricity, but you just never know. You never know. That's the way it goes. So there we are. So anyway, first of all, if you would like to visit my website, it's very simple to do. Bishop James Long, LONG, .com. That's the website. If you want to know more about me, all you got to do is go to bishopjameslong.com. I do teach online demonology, paranormal studies, genealogy. So demonology, I teach those classes there. Just click on the class link and you can sign up. It's all online. You learn 100% online. You learn at your own pace. And also I have the store that's there as well. So you can click on the store if you want as well. Fine. That'd be great. Now, if you want to go to the church's website, it's very, very simple. usocc.org. That's easy. usocc.org. And if you want to know any more information about us, that's all you got to do. Of course, also night prayers tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can go to bishopjameslong.com or there on the link on KGREDB. You can go to bishopjameslong.com, scroll down to the bottom. It says night prayer. It's at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Pretty simple. Also, I want you to go to this website. The sponsors of our shows is KGRADB.com. So KGRAD as in dog, B as in boy.com. Now, they have paranormal shows there everywhere. And as a matter of fact, it's very, very, very inexpensive. And if you put Bishop as your promo code, you're going to get 30% off your subscription. So it's already very affordable as it is. But just make sure you put Bishop as your promo code, and it's going to even 30% off. That's pretty substantial. Now, today I've been informed by Mr. Producer, this is the first time that we're airing on Rumble as well. So for those of folks who are watching us on Rumble, hello and welcome. And for those of you watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, listening to on Spreaker and TikTok, well, howdy to all you guys as well. Very quickly, I'm Bishop James Long with the United States Old Catholic Church. I did study for the Roman Catholic priesthood for 6 years. I'm an exorcist now for the church. I have been for quite some time. And I've been helping the paranormal community for over 2 decades. I was on Ghost Adventures, the Bobby Mackey's episodes. I've been National Geographic, Travel Channel, A&E, pretty much all the networks throughout the years that talk about demonology. And really, when I started over 2 decades ago, there was only 2, me and another clergy member helping the paranormal community. That was it. I was there. So that was all. And his name was Father Andrew Calder. He was a friend of mine. And so we were the only ones, all the clergy helping the paranormal community. And so that's really how I went public with my ministry. And it's pretty simple. People often say, oh, there you go. So rumble.com/C/KGRADB. Cool. Very good. So yeah, when I started 2 decades ago, I did not want to go public with my ministry. I wanted to stay private. But I had a lot of friends in the paranormal community, and they were telling me, look, we have no clergy helping us. There's nobody. And Father Andrew, I called her. Andy, he was a schismatic group from an Episcopalian community, and he really did not want to perform exorcisms on people. That was not his calling. And so that's why I went public with my ministry. And people, here's the difference. Here's what people are confused about. People are confused about, well, why are you so involved in the paranormal community? And they have such a problem with that. I did a video on TikTok. This is what I do. This is it. As simple as it is. People call me and they say, Bishop Long, I have issues in my home. Can you please get here and help? So if they live out of state, I usually try to find a team that's reputable. They go in, they investigate, they gather all the information, they present the information to me, and I determine what we're going to do. If it requires the church's attention, then I get involved and I go to these people's homes, never charging one penny, never, ever. And I bless the home. That's it. That's it, folks. That's it. I mean, it really is. It's not rocket science. It's not complicated. That's what I do and what I have been doing for 2 decades in the paranormal community. Now, people are always asking, again, if you want to go to the church's website, usocc.org. That is the name of the website. Now, let me explain as far as exorcisms. Please, whatever you do, I don't like people spreading purposeful misinformation, or I don't like people putting information in there that's incorrect because they think they know the answer. Just don't do that. If you're not trained in exorcism, if you're not trained in demonology, then don't pass it off as if you know what because then you can mislead people, and I don't want people doing that. There is the solemn rite of exorcism. That is a ritual that is performed when an individual becomes possessed. Then there is the minor rite of exorcism. There's no such thing as performing an exorcism on a home. That is ridiculous. It doesn't exist. You bless the home. You perform the minor rite of exorcism on the demonic or malevolent spirit that has infested itself within the home. You don't perform an exorcism on a home. You bless the home. And then, of course, a deliverance is prayed over a person who has an attachment, a demonic attachment, to remove that attachment from the individual. So that really is the 3 levels. And okay, so there you go. And again, I'm just going to be very blunt with you. For those of you who just tuned in, number 1, I don't talk politics here. I'm not interested in talking politics. This is not the time or the place for it. And number 2, we don't tolerate trolls. We don't tolerate people cursing. We don't tolerate people calling this person fake or that person phony. Because the thing is I don't go to your lives and call you fake. It's fascinating how people, for some reason, think that it's okay to go to my live and call me fake because I don't believe in the same denomination that you're in. So then that would mean that if that's what we're going to do from now on, so we're going to go to every person's denomination or page who has not, maybe if they're not Catholic or if they're Episcopalian or if they're Lutherans or if they're Methodists. So we're going to go to everybody and call them fake. That's called judgment. And you have no authority to judge. So we rebuke any form of judgment here. I welcome everybody here. Everyone is welcome. Okay. Yeah. And by the way, and I'm going to say this, trolls, let me just make this very, very clear. Trolls, you will not get my attention. So if you're on TikTok, you're not going to get my attention. I will not pay attention to you. I don't pay attention to pestilent children, people who just need attention. I have no patience for that. So we're all adults. So you're not going to get under my skin. I'm not going to curse and I'm not going to yell and stomp my feet. I will ignore you. That's what I'll do. I'll ignore you. For the rest of the folks who are just being kind, well, welcome. And that's the thing, with this presentation, with our platform, we welcome everyone. We welcome everybody. I have not seen the Pope's Exorcist, by the way. I would like to check that out. But I have not seen it. I don't like. Here's what I will say about this. I've never been a fan. Someone asked me, and this has nothing to do with the topic for tonight. That's okay. But someone asked me, why haven't they seen a video of me performing an exorcism? Well, first of all, you've seen me on television. I've been on Ghost Adventures. I've been on Travel Channel. I've been on A&E, National Geographic, History Channel. So I've been on plenty of television shows. And I'm a cast member for a show coming up, which I can't talk about, but that's all I can say is that I did some filming in Los Angeles, and I'll let you know when it comes out. But you're not ever going to see, ever, never, under any circumstances, are you ever going to see me perform an exorcism on a human being. It won't ever happen. The day that I do that is the day that I take this collar off and I no longer can call myself a priest, because that's when I sell out, because that is an abomination. I truly believe that's an abomination. Um, it's quite terrible, because think about that. Well, why? Okay, why? So that's a good question. Well, Money Matthew. Well, let me ask you a question, Money Matthew, and that's okay that you ask why. Imagine, Money Matthew 44, whoever else is asking. Imagine if your family member is possessed. Now, keep in mind, when you're talking about possession, the person goes through extreme. I mean, we're talking. This is an extreme process where the person is broken down, their intellect and will is broken down. They have been beaten and battered, attacked, viciously attacked by the demonic, to the point where they can no longer fight. They're at a very vulnerable state, and then a demonic possesses the body and does terrible things. And you call a clergy to come in to your home to help. And then this clergy says, "Oh yeah, I'll be happy to help." And they have cameras everywhere. And now they're taking advantage, because then they post it on social media, all over social media, so they can get likes and get a paycheck, so they can become famous on social media. So they've used your family members' despair and suffering for financial gain. That is an abomination. That actually could cause someone to lose faith in Christianity, knowing that a clergy would come into your home and take advantage of your loved one's suffering. And then they would actually take advantage so they can get likes, so they can get famous. That person will have to answer to God for that. And I don't think God will show mercy, because that is taking advantage of someone's suffering, physical, spiritual, and mental anguish, and putting a camera in front of your loved one's face and then putting it on social media everywhere so people can be entertained, sit back and watch and drink their, soft drinks and eat the popcorn, watching someone go through hell and suffer. That's terrible. That really is terrible. And any clergy that does that should be ashamed of themselves. I don't care who it is. I don't care. I don't care who it is. If there's an exorcist who is putting a camera in front of someone's face who is possessed, and they put it all over the world so people can see for entertainment value so they can get a paycheck, they will answer to God for that abomination. Because if I was clergy, and look, if I was not clergy, and a clergy member came into my home or my family member's home and took advantage of their suffering, and then I was flipping through social media and I saw my loved one on television or on iPad or whatever, and seeing that the clergy got millions and millions of likes and making a decent residual check out of my loved one's misery. My God, I mean, have we lost our ever-loving mind? That's why. Well, Jesus is not fictional. You're incorrect. So Jesus is not fictional. As a matter of fact, it's interesting that people say Jesus is fictional. Have you read Flavius Josephus? If you're going to come in with a comment like that, then you need to defend it. Because Flavius Josephus was a first century Christian historian writer who actually speaks of Yeshua of Nazareth, who actually was born and was crucified, that many people claim to be the Messiah, and even people claim that he was resurrected. So don't come in here and start spouting off all this nonsense if you don't know the historical context of Christ and the historical documentation that shows that Jesus actually did exist. So, sorry. It just simply... yes, he did. God loves humanity. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Now I'm going to be patient with you, but you're not going to come in and saying Jesus is fictional, because I'm just not going to allow that. I'm just not going to allow it. So be kind, show respect, and there we go. No, Jesus was not white. You're right. Jesus was not right. He was more olive skin. That is correct. Okay. Already. So, yeah, a lot of people, there's a lot of movement trying to discredit Jesus and his divinity and his humanity, and even people saying he didn't even exist, and that's just simply not true. It just simply is not true, and it just bothers me when people try to spread that nonsense because, um, you know. But anyway, okay, okay, all right. God loves humanity. You're wrong, and now I'm going to block you. There we go. See, that's the thing. I'm not going to. I've answered it. That's when we block people, moderators. When I've already answered it, and the person continues to say that that kind of nonsense, I'm just not going to allow it, and not on my platform. It's just not going to happen. So, yeah. Oh, moderators, Shannon's saying, wake up. Come on, moderators. All right, tonight we're going to have a very interesting conversation. We are going to talk about near-death experiences. That is going to, I tell you what, folks. Now, and by the way, tomorrow, the next show, tomorrow night, I'm going to have my sister, and she is going to be coming on and talking about her experience. And I'm telling you, that's going to be interesting. So, folks, I tell you what. Let me just do this. For the hold on one second. There. Okay. So the comments are turned off on TikTok because I'll answer your questions at the top of the hour. But right now, we're going to have a talk about near-death experiences because that is what we're going to discuss. So comments are turned off on TikTok. There's a lot of trolls and a lot of nonsense. So we'll just turn them off and then and have a conversation. It'd be a good one. Okay, in the top of the hour, I'll get your questions, but not right now. So near-death experiences. I tell you, folks, there is a lot of people who have had near-death experiences, and I am one of those individuals. Before I get into the conversation and tell you about a little bit about the presentation, let me tell you my situation, and then I'm going to again I'll be interviewing my sister, bringing her on and talking about her experience for her near-death experience. We'll be doing that tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you tune in and hear her story because it's pretty. I mean, it's pretty impressive. In 2014, my mom passed away. And in 2015, I had to have an upper scope. Unfortunately, I suffered from a lot of I suffer from migraines from playing football. So I have chronic cluster migraines from the concussions. And unfortunately, I took a lot of Excedrin migraine, a lot, and it caused problems in the stomach. So I had to have an upper scope done. I remember being wheeled back to the operating room. Everything was fine. But I remember then waking up. Now, I know what a dream is. I think I'm intelligent enough to say, I know the difference between a dream and reality. And again, for those of you just tuning in, I might lose electricity because we're having severe wind issues. I mean, severe, up to 75-mile-per-hour wind. So if I lose electricity, then you know that's what happened. So I'm giving everybody heads up on that because hopefully we won't have that problem. But okay, so they were doing the upper scope, but I remember I remember waking up. Now, well, thank you, Shannon. And during this procedure, I remember looking over to my left, and I saw this doctor. But what it never dawned on me that I was the patient. That it didn't even affect me. I didn't even think about it. I didn't know. I didn't even know it was me who was on the table. I just looked over, and there he was, and he was panicking. I mean, his face was. He was real. I could tell he was really stressed. And there's a horrible machine going off behind me. I remember that, and for some reason, I couldn't turn around and look at it. And this doctor was just panicking. I mean, he was panic. And again, folks, I know what a dream is. This was not a dream. This was just as alive and as vivid as it is right now. So that's how clear it was. Well, right behind this doctor, it was the bright. I know it's cliche, but it happened. The brightest light, a blinding bright light, and a silhouette walked up right behind him and came closer and closer. And beautiful. I mean, it looked like an angel. She looked like an angel, and I couldn't figure out who it was. I mean, radiating this joy and light. And she placed her hand on the doctor's shoulders. He took a deep breath, kind of calmed himself, and said something. I don't know what he said. And then that loud noise behind me went off. And she looked at me and she smiled. And that's when it dawned on me, that's mom. That was mom. And she didn't look like the mom that you know, she looked much younger, beautiful, radiating, just beautiful. And then she just faded away. Well, apparently, when I came to in the recovery room, I was screaming. My sister Jennifer was there. I said, "I saw mom. I saw mom." And Jennifer was like, "I know. The whole entire hospital knows because you were screaming at the top of your lungs from the operating room into the recovery room. You were saying you saw mom. I don't remember doing that because I was still under anesthesia. But apparently, I was screaming. I kept saying it over and over and over. Well, I talked to Jeffrey Long, Dr. Jeffrey Long, and Dr. Jeffrey Long is a medical doctor, and he's a world leading expert on near-death experience. And he's actually a medical doctor. And he has a great website called nderf.org. So I had him on my show, and he said, "James, let me tell you, 100% you flatline. No ifs, ands, or buts about it." He said, number one, there is a 0% chance. This is coming from a medical doctor. So anybody says, "Well, I don't agree with that." Well, show me your MD degree and then we will talk. There's a 0% chance of dreaming on propofol. Doesn't exist. It can't happen. And I even talked to an anesthesiologist. Can't happen. There is an absolute. This was in 2015. So this was just a few years, not too many years ago. So there's a 0% chance. It will not happen. You will not dream propofol because you don't go into REM, which is rapid eye movement. You don't go into deep sleep. 0% chance. And he said further, and also the fact that you were screaming you saw your deceased mother from the operating room to the recovery room, there's no way you could have faked that because you were still under anesthesia. So it's not like you were aware. You're like, "Well, I'm just going to start saying it just so I can get attention." Nope, I wasn't even aware of it. So and also the noise behind me, and what he said, and this really, when he said this on when I was interviewing him, it really kind of took my breath away. He said that is the anesthesiologist machine going off because you flatline, and when you flatline, the machine makes a horrible loud noise to alert the anesthesiologist, the doctors, that there's a problem. And when they what I found very weird is when I was being wheeled down. And they wheel you down the outside of the hospital. The operating room, the nurse that was in the operating room with me wheeled me down. And I even said, "Well, isn't there a porter? I mean, why are..." And there was plenty of porters there, lots of them. And I even asked her, I said, "Well, aren't there porters?" "Oh, yeah, we have plenty of porters." I'm like, "Well, why are you wheeling me down?" And she wouldn't answer. And then we got into the elevator, and I asked her, "Did something happen in the operating room?" Her exact words were, "You need to speak to your doctor about that issue." She wouldn't answer. So I know for a fact, no ifs, ands, or buts about it, that I saw my mom. I have no doubt in my mind, none. And again, people say, "Well, you were dreaming." No, that's an opinion, and the opinion is incorrect. Until you go to medical school and until you have an MD behind your name, an opinion is irrelevant, because this is actually from information. This is from an anesthesiologist, and this is actually from a medical doctor. Propofol, you cannot dream. But again, I know the difference between a dream and reality. And so this was not a dream. It was as vivid as it is right now. But so, no, yeah, I mean, literally from the operating room until the recovery room, I was screaming. I saw mom. But like I said, I don't remember that. But it was insane. To be able to see my mom was just, I mean, I can't describe the joy in her face. There is no way to describe it, because no matter what happiness, it's beyond happiness. Peace, it's beyond peace. It was just, I don't know. Uh, if you wrap peace and happiness and calm and love, and if you wrap all those into one word, I mean, even then, it's still not. It doesn't really capture the expression. It just doesn't. So it's pretty powerful. It was a very powerful experience. Um, but that's my experience of a near death experience. So I was clinically dead. I flatlined, and I saw my mom. So, but there's a lot of people. If you go to the website nderf.org, check that out. There's so many people who are clinically dead and who've experienced, and they came back and said what they experienced. Now, some people have experienced, maybe it wasn't so good. There have been people who have, and my sister will talk to you about some of these things tomorrow. My sister's experience is pretty intense. She Shannon, and she'll tell you tomorrow, she kind of walked on, not kind of, she walked on the dark side. And when you hear her story tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard, you're going to find out that, yeah, it was certainly intense for her, no question. But I guess the definition of a near-death experience is people who come close to death and are later revived. They sometimes report memories of unusual experiences they had while apparently unconscious. That's the official definition of near-death experience. These memory accounts are often said to be a recollection of near-death experience, or otherwise known as NDE. Now, Raymond Moody, who, by the way, who has an MD and PhD, the father of near-death experience and the author of books that have sold over 20 million copies, described how historical records dating to ancient Greece contain descriptions with people who have experienced NDEs. So what's interesting is this is not a new phenomenon. And Moody's book, by the way, if you have not checked it out, you might want to check it out. It's Life After Life. And it presented an initial collection of over 150 contemporary NDEs. So when I say NDE, I'm talking about near-death experience. The NDE typically includes many of the following. So the mind leaving the body, traveling upward, passing from dark to a brilliant light, often within a tunnel. And the light, which is often interpreted to be God or the Supreme Being, transmits joy, peace, love, and comfort. And when I saw my mom, that is what I experienced. It was truly the brightest light I've ever seen in my life. Right behind this doctor, and this silhouette coming right behind him. What was interesting is I didn't recognize my mom in the beginning. I didn't recognize her. And I talked to my sister about, I think it was Emily. And she said, I described what my mom looked like. And then she said, I think I have a picture. And so she gave me a picture. I was like, that's it. Now magnify the brightness and the joy times 1,000,000. And that's what you get. So many times people who have near-death experiences, they meet their deceased loved ones, as I did, or their friends, relatives that welcome them. They have a life review sometimes in which they understand the meaning of life and how they have lived it out and how it affected others. But folks, believe it or not, the words and the actions you use affects other people. And one day, all of you, including myself, will have a life review. And for the trolls, and for the people who like to cause havoc on people's lives, which I don't understand why, that's sadistic. That is a perfect example of sadistic. Because isn't life hard enough as it is? And then to add more grief onto someone's or stress to someone's like, why would anybody? That's sadism. Only a sadistic person would do that to another human being. I truly believe that. Now, I'm not. I have the comments off on TikTok because it just got on my nerves. But that's why I don't understand trolls. Because if they truly understood the consequences of their actions, I would think hopefully maybe they wouldn't do it unless they're truly sadistic. Because I do believe, I absolutely am 1,000,000% convinced that there will be a life review, every single one of us. And although you may think it's funny to use your words to try to harm somebody, you'll have to answer for that. And I don't think God will think it's funny. I don't think God will say, "Oh, it's okay, it's good." I don't think he'll appreciate it at all. And that life review, when you stand before God, you'll have to answer for what you've done and what you haven't done. And that's why I don't understand people who like to harm other people emotionally. I don't get it with their words, actions. I don't understand. But a lot of people say that they have a life review. And these are people, by the way, who are clinically dead. These are not people where there's still brain activity. They are clinically dead. There are people there's been documented cases where people have been dead for an hour or even longer and have come back. So there's no brain activity. So you can't say, well, the brain's still, no, after 10 minutes and no oxygen, the brain's dead. And that's according to Dr. Jeffrey Long. That's it. There's no more brain activity. So you can't, after an hour, there is no oxygen to the brain. The brain dies. After 10 minutes, it's oxygen deprived. And that's according to again, Dr. Jeffrey Long. So many people then return to our mortal life. And some have even said that reluctantly. Because because many times they get the message that their time has not yet come. And I understand that. I understand that I didn't see heaven. At least my perspective of heaven. I saw the brightest light behind this doctor, and I saw my mom coming through that light. I saw her radiating what I would describe as heaven, which was, I cannot describe the peace, the joy, the love. I just can't describe it. There are just simply no words to describe it. But many people who actually see heaven and are with their loved ones, when they return, many times they're angry because they just want to be left alone there. They just want to stay. Because when you get to that point and you get to that place, I mean, I saw a glimpse of heaven in my mom. And if that's what heaven is like, which I believe it is, but if that is what it's like, I don't want to come back. I would not want to leave that place. Because upon returning to their earthly body, even sometimes, many people will live a purposeful, love-filled life. And I'm telling you, it'll change. The fear of death almost becomes largely absent after you have a near-death experience. I've never been afraid of death. I've never been afraid of death. That's one thing. That's one topic. Whether you're, yes, animals do go to heaven, because actually Revelation talks about animals. So yes, I'm 1,000,000% convinced that our fur babies are in heaven. No doubt about it. But I think that no matter if you're Republican, if you're Democrat, if you're liberal, if you're conservative, if you're moderate, no matter who you are or what you are in your political world, no matter if you're rich or poor, no matter what race you are, no matter what religion you are, no matter what, if you are a human being, you are going to die. We all are going to die one day, every single one of us. So this affects you just as it affects me, and it affects all of us. Every one of us will die. Everyone. Doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how poor you are. Doesn't matter how famous you are. Doesn't matter it doesn't matter. You will die. And when you have a near-death experience, it really does. For me, I've never been afraid of dying, but when you have that experience, it just emphasizes even more my faith that I'm going to be okay. So the NDE, the near-death experience, again, if I say NDE, I'm talking about near-death experience, typically includes many of the following. Again, the mind leaving, um, the body sometimes passes through a light, which many people describe this bright light. And I think so. I really do believe. Now, Bruce Grayson, he's an MD, professor of University of Virginia School of Medicine, and the co-founder, the International Association of Near-Death Studies, by the way, really pretty cool. In 2013, reviewed postulated scientific explanations of near-death experiences. So expectancy, birth memories, altered blood gases, REM intrusion, toxic or metabolic hallucinations. So the people who are trying to say the naysayers, trying to find a definite explanation for NDE. In addition to the positive aspects during and after an NDE, he was the first to point out distressing NDEs, which are disturbing, even terrifying to those who experience them. So even for those who are saying, well, it's the hell aspects. So if someone passes away and they see hell, and that would be an issue. That would be obviously a very terrifying issue. He also noticed that most people that have NDEs are mentally healthy, and that NDEs must not be confused or equated with depersonalization, disassociation, post-traumatic stress disorder. Because, see, some people are saying, well, it's just a disassociation issue. No, your brain is dead. If after an hour, after past 10 minutes, you have no brain activity. Now, this is really, and this Dr. Jeffrey Long said this, and this is coming from his site, and it really is a great site. He said, my understanding of near-death experiences has made me a better doctor. He says, I face life with more courage and confidence. I believe near-death experiences really do bring a piece of the afterlife. When they share their remarkable experiences, I believe a piece of the afterlife in some mysterious way becomes available to us all. Repent our sins of the tongue, our blood out. Yes, that's the whole point of repentance. Okay. By the way, Pim van Lommel, who is an MD, a Dutch cardiologist, has conducted prospective studies on patients having cardiac arrest during hospitalization. What's interesting is 18% of 344 successfully resuscitated patients report having NDEs. That's a lot of people. He also reports 4 other similarly designed prospective studies that found 10 and 20% of 562 patients report having them. Grayson states that over 9 million people have reported having a near-death experience. I am convinced, without question, that people who have near-death experiences and they're able to come back and they are clinically dead, that there's something going on. I can't bring you guys on. For those of you who are wanting to come on, I can't bring you on TikTok because I run the show on 2 different computers. Sorry about that. Now, by the way, for those of you who want to know, Dr. Jeffrey Long, he's a Louisiana radiation oncologist. He established the nonprofit Near-Death Experience Research Foundation for collection, international reporting, and study from NDE people worldwide. I had him on my show twice. You can go to his website, nderf.org. By the way, in October 2014, the issue Long elaborates, and this is really, really important. Listen to this very carefully. I want to share this with you because this you need to know. And I'm going to go over this as well. But he actually issues 9 lines of evidence that converge on the explanation that NDE cannot be scientifically explained at this time. Among the most impressive of these 9 are factual reports of events that have occurred in the past or did happen in the future or transpired during the NDEs were physically remote and otherwise unknowable by the person. For example, there was a case where someone actually clinically died, and on the operating room light, it was in the operating room, and on the the huge light that the surgeons bring down so they can actually see what they're doing if they're doing surgery. Well, on the top of one of these lights were numbers. This person flatlined, dead, and they remember being raised. They left their body. They remember being raised, and they saw the body, their body, there on the gurney with the doctors all around it, and they saw, I think, 4 or 5 little letters on top of the light. Now, this is on top of the light. The person's on the gurney here being operated on. They remembered that number. When they came to, they were resuscitated. When they came to, they immediately said and told the people, the nurses and their families, they gave the number on top of the light. They went to check. It was the numbers the person gave them. You can't dismiss that. Clearly, the soul left the body, and the conscious, not only the conscious left the body for them to be able to see this number on top. It was on top now. So it wasn't the person was laying down could see the numbers. First of all, the person was in surgery. But secondly, it was on top of this light where the surgeons used to shine on the body. And when they came back, when they were resuscitated, they came back and gave them these, I think, 4 or 5 numbers that they memorized. You cannot dismiss that. That's impossible. You cannot explain. You can't dismiss that away. How could someone possibly know that? Other than they left their body and they saw. By the way, unaccountable events. Listen to this. There was a totally blind individual who had a near-death experience. They were clinically dead. Clinically dead, folks. They described accurately vivid visual events during their resuscitation, and also precise accounts from individuals that were hypothermic. Now, keep in mind, this is an individual who was, and Dr. Long talked about that, who was blind from birth, never saw color. But when they died, they had a near-death experience. They saw color, and they described everything that they saw. That cannot be dismissed. It simply can't. No heart activity, no blood pressure, a flat EEG. They had no pulse. But yet they were able to come back and describe in vivid color, detail. That's powerful. By the way, 96%, and this is according to Dr. Long, 96% of NDE reporting patients, NDERF, the website, many highly educated and scientifically trained call their experience definitely real. And there's no if and you're right, Jimmy. So many who have had NDEs from all walks of life have described the same experience, and that's true. And from all cultures, different religions, different faiths, different cultures, all around the world experience the same thing. When you have something like that occurring, then that you have to take into account that there's something real behind it. People can say, well, I don't believe it. Then you have to explain that away. Then you have to explain how that a blind person who had never saw color was able to come back after being resuscitated and could describe everything in detail and in color. You then have to explain how a person who is on an operating room being operated on and flatlined and left their body and was able to see their body and see the numbers above the bright light that the surgeons use to light up the body when they're doing surgery. You have to explain. So if you're going to say I don't believe it, then you explain how they did it. And they can't. You explain how there have been cases and documented cases where people had died and their families were fighting about what they're going to do and whether or not they're going to. Matter of fact, when I was a chaplain in the hospital, there was a particular individual who flatlined. They were clinically dead. The family was over here and they were arguing about, because there's no will, if the person was going to be cremated or if there's going to be buried. And I was trying to calm everybody down, and they were fighting. And again, this person is declared dead. They are dead. We were not in the room. We were in the chapel. They were not even near where the person died. So I'm in this chapel with this family, and this family is fighting about, well, no, we're going to cremate them. No, we're going to bury them. And they're really going at it. And the doctor was running down the hallway, and I saw the doctor running. I was like, what in the world's going on? So I walked, the family started fighting. I said, excuse me. So I walked out. The doctor went right back in the room, and it was chaos. I mean, it was just the nurses were running in there, and I walked into the room, and the machine was doing this. And the person came back to life. They were able to resuscitate this. But now this person was to pass away for about 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. But here is what gave me chills. So I didn't tell the family the resuscitate because I wanted to find out for sure, because I didn't want to go back and say they're back to life and then they flatline again. So I stayed in the room, and the person they were able to stabilize them. Well, after they stabilized and the family came back in, and everybody was just kind of stunned, and they came to. They were finally. It took a while for the person to actually, obviously gain conscious. The person described and was very angry with how, folks, I can't bring you on. I've already said that. I can't bring you on right now because I'm running the show on 2 different computers. The person was angry because the family were fighting over whether or not they're going to cremate their loved one or bury them. They were able to describe in detail what each person said. And so that's when they said, that's it. I'm writing my will down. So he wrote it on a piece of paper, and this is what I want. And he signed it. I signed it. The family signed it, and that was taken care of. Folks, I couldn't the family was looking at me for explanation. And the only explanation I can tell them is, well, this person had a near-death experience. They were clinically dead. There was absolutely nothing nothing. The machine's flatline. And it was, like I said, it was about 25 minutes. They were able to come back and tell, this family member said this, and this family member was arguing. They were going back and forth, and there's no explanation for that. None. You can't dismiss it. I saw it. I witnessed it. I was there. And the fact that this person was furious at the family because they were just going at it. That just, when I give me goosebumps now just talking about it, because when I experienced that, man, that was powerful. That was powerful. So the people who say, well, I don't believe in near-death experience, well, that's an opinion. But then you have to explain those away. You have to logically explain to me how that person who died on that gurney or the bed, how that person can know what the family was doing in the chapel, arguing about whether or not they're going to cremate them or whether they're not going to bury them. How could they possibly? And not only that, but how they knew which one said which. They described the conversation in detail. It wasn't general, like, well, some family members wanted me to be buried. Some people wanted me cremated. They actually said, you said this, and you were arguing over this. That was enough for me. That was enough for me. I was like, okay, I don't need any more proof. And hello. So the church teaches that we have a spiritual and immortal soul that lives on after death. And I believe that. There are people who have NDEs who experience heaven or hell. Now, the question is there scientific evidence of our soul in the afterlife? Well, near-death experiences, lucid experiences associate with consciousness apart from the body and the brain. When I saw my mom, I was fully conscious. I was fully aware. Again, I know the difference between a dream and being fully conscious. I was just as conscious then as I am now. Fully aware. People report, again, moving outside their bodies, passing through hospital walls, even being transported to another place, often moving through a tunnel or bright light. Now, there is a major elements of near-death experiences are out-of-body. Many people experience out-of-body experience. For me, it did not dawn on me Like I said, when I wasn't the patient, that never even dawned on me that I was the patient. I never was able to flip around. That some people say they go up and they kind of turn around and see their bodies. I didn't do that. I literally, I knew that I was kind of laying flat, but it never dawned on me that I was the patient. All I knew is this poor guy over here who was in scrubs was freaking out and really stressed. And I was more like, how can I help him? Because I couldn't communicate with him. There's just no, there was just no way to communicate with this guy to just say, hey, everything's gonna be cool. Just relax. It's gonna be okay. I couldn't do that. But I did hear the machine going off behind me. So many people say that there's an out of body experience with near death experiences, a feeling of love, joy, peace, and painlessness. True. Experience of moving in a tunnel, which I did not have. Meeting deceased relatives. I did see that. My mom. Encountering a loving white light. That is true, but the light is even the word loving doesn't. When I use the word loving, that seems inferior because it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't capture the true emotion. It's more than loving. It's far more than loving. Receiving a life review, which I did not have. Suddenly back inside one's earthly body, which I was, but that was in the recovery room. So there are skeptics. Yeah, hey, but it's more than peaceful. See, even the word, if I say peaceful, it's more than that. And when I say loving, it's more than that. There is no word in the English language that I can really express. Yeah, I guess if you're loving, kind, warm, powerful, joy, happiness. I guess if you put all those words together and made a word, you know, now there are skeptics out there. I'll admit, and they say a defense mechanism produced by chemicals in the dying brain. Nope, the brain is dead. Some people say the brain's response to drugs, lack of oxygen. After 30 minutes, you have your oxygen deprived. Your brain is no longer clicking. They say it's a hallucination or delusion. Nope. We know the difference between a hallucination or delusion. Wishful thinking using memories implanted in the subconscious. Again, if you're going to people who say that, then you need to explain how a blind person can describe color in detail when they were blind from death when they had a near-death experience, how a person can know what a family was arguing for in the chapel, whether or not they're going to be cremated or buried, and how an individual can rise up after being flatline, being operated, and actually see the serial numbers on top of the white light. How we can know the NDEs are real? Well, over 65 peer-reviewed medical studies of more than 3,500 NDEs. So let's talk information gathered under clinical conditions, medical conditions. Patients clinically dead. They're clinically dead. There's no heartbeat. It is a flat EEG. There is no gag reflex. The pupils are fixed. So the hallucination whole thing is completely ruled out. Now, about 10 to 20% of clinical deaths, patients report that they maintain consciousness despite the absence of brain function. They can see, hear what's going on around them. I could. They can remember what's happening. They know who they are. I knew who I was, but I never knew that I was the patient. Medical studies validate near-death experience reality. Confirmed observations of the physical world when clinically dead. And there are so many stories of people who have had this, who have experienced this. Again, people who were blind and had a near-death experience and was able to come back and explain it. And many people, it transformed values and changed their lives after experiencing. No longer fear of death, greater compassion, loving attitude, spiritual growth, know that God exists, in inner peace. And it really does. It does change your reality in life. And medical studies validate near-death experience reality. They have been confirmed observations of the physical world, meeting previously unknown deceased relatives during NDEs, which have occurred. Dr. Pim van Lommel Says until now, the concept was that the brain is the producer of consciousness and the producer of memories. But when you study near-death experience, we have to reconsider this concept. Perhaps we should consider the brain not as a producer, but as a receiver of consciousness. I agree with that. Now, there are people who have reported negative near-death experiences. And near-death experiences verify reality of heaven and hell. Whether people whether people want to believe in hell or not, hell exists. People have been clinically dead, and their experience was not so great. And they came back to tell the story. 10% of near-death experiences report negative experiences. This is an individual who was clinically dead, no brain activity. They said, suddenly I stopped in this dark tunnel and began to fall at enormous speed, faster and faster, like I was literally hurled down headfirst into this black hole. As I was falling, I began to hear screams, shrieks, heart-rending, dreadful, terrible laughter, and the most disgusting stench you can imagine. And then the blackness changed to fire. And there were all kinds of ghastly and terrifying creatures who were snatching at me. That's pretty intense. And there have been plenty of cases where people have talked about this. So I want to talk about my Dr. Jeffrey Long, and I'll get your questions in just a second, and then I will open up the comments there on TikTok. But again, Dr. Jeffrey Long is a world-leading expert. I encourage you to check out his website, nderf.org. Again, folks, what I want you to do is tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to have my sister on, and she's going to talk about her near-death experience. She was clinically dead. There was nothing there. She was clinically dead for a while. So you can't argue, well, it was within 5 minutes. Nope. After 10 minutes, the oxygen, once you're dead, you're flatline, you're not breathing, you're oxygen deprived, your brain's dead. Okay, that's according to Dr. Long. There's no more. Now, so he says, and this is brilliant. This is the proof that Dr. Long says that near-death experiences are 100% truthful. And he has 9 evidence presented for the afterlife. And this is what he says. Number 1, there's a crystal clear consciousness. He says the level of consciousness and alertness during near-death experiences is usually even greater than that experience in everyday life, even though the NDEs generally occur when a person is unconscious or clinically dead. This high level of consciousness, while physically unconscious, is medically inexplicable. Additionally, the elements of NDEs generally follow the same consistent and logical order in all age groups around the world, which refutes the possibility that NDEs have any relation to dream or hallucination. Because if people are going to say, well, it's all a dream or hallucination, then that would be a problem, because then everybody's having the same dream, the same hallucination all around the world, all socioeconomic status, all religions. That doesn't make sense. Number 2, I'll get to your questions in a second, guys, because I want to get this. Number 2, he says the realistic out-of-body experiences. Out-of-body experiences, or OBEs, are one of the most common elements of near-death experiences. What NDEers see and hear of earthly events in the out-of-body state is almost realistic. When the NDE or others later seek to verify what was observed or heard during the NDE, the out-of-body experience observations are almost always confirmed as completely accurate. Even if the out-of-body experience observations during the near-death experience included events far from the physical body and far from any possible sensory awareness. So in other words, that's what I'm talking about, where the person was dead in the hospital room and the family was in the chapel, not even close. So people say, well, the body's still picking up noises, the brain is still... No, there's no way. The chapel wasn't even close to this person's room. Not even close. Even if they screamed, they wouldn't have been able to hear it. So the idea that this person was in this hospital room and he heard his family members scream, nope, The doors were shut. You could not have heard it. Impossible. Also, he said, Dr. Long says, number 3, heightened senses. Not only are heightened senses reported by most who have near-death experience, normal or supernormal vision has occurred in those who had significantly impaired vision, and even legal blindness. Also, consciousness during anesthesia. That's number 4. He said many near-death experiencers occur while under general anesthesia at a time when any conscious experience is impossible. Now, he says some skeptics claim that NDEs may be the result of too little anesthesia that ignores the fact that some NDEs result from anesthesia overdose. Additionally, the description of an NDE differs greatly from that of one who experienced anesthetic awareness. So the content of NDEs that occur under general anesthesia is essentially indistinguishable from NDEs that did not occur under general anesthesia. So in other words, there's no way that you can dream. It's impossible under general anesthesia. 5, perfect playback. He says life reviews and near-death experiences include real events that previously took place in their lives of those having the experience, even if the events were forgotten or happened before they were old enough to even remember. So in other words, people who have had near-death experiences have had life reviews where their life reviews goes very fast, even from all the way to where they currently are, all the way to memories where they completely forgot. Family reunions, number 6. During a near-death experience, the people encountered are virtually always deceased and are always relatives of the person having the experience. Sometimes they're even relatives who died before the NDE was even born. Number 7, children's experiences. The near-death experiences of children, including very young children who are too young to have developed concepts of death, religion, or near-death experiences, are essentially identical to those of older children and adults. That's very powerful. 8, worldwide consistency. Near-death experiences appears remarkably consistent around the world and across many different religions and cultures. Near-death experiences for non-Western countries are incredibly similar to those that occur in people from Western countries. And then, of course, the after effects. 9, it is common for people to experience major life changes after having near-death experiences. These after effects are often powerful, lasting, life-enhancing, and they are. I tell you, and as the NDEers of them always themselves believe, the near-death experiences are they're real, and they are real. So these things are really, really powerful when you experience them. I don't know how many of you have experienced them, but they are. And it is a complete separation of consciousness from the body. A totally complete separation. Hearing distinct sounds, people passing through a tunnel and encountering bright mystical light, meeting people. Again, very, very powerful experience. So I am convinced, after talking to Dr. Jeffrey Long, I'm convinced, in fact, that I did have a near-death experience. And when you hear my sister's little story tomorrow, then you guys will hear this as well. So I turned the comments on there for TikTok, and so we'll get to some of your questions. If you have any questions regarding near-death experience, my experience, I can talk to you about them, or maybe anything that you want to, because I have all the notes of Dr. Long when he was on the show twice. So there we go. Oh boy, the name of the book. Let me find it. Life After Life, I believe it's called. Yeah, that's a good question. What are the odds that you and your sister would both have near-death experience? That's a great question. Because a lot of people, I can't explain it. I can't explain why. I can only tell you that the experience that I had, and my sister Jennifer was there, and so it was pretty intense. Actually, there's a case of 2 hours that I read where someone actually was clinically dead and they came back to life. But that's a great. I'll have to next time. I'll have to ask Dr. Long that. And I don't think. Well, tune in tomorrow, Jody, about what my sister saw because I'm going to actually have my sister on as a guest tomorrow night at 8 p.m. and she's going to tell you the whole story. And her story is it's pretty interesting. Okay, so I'll go into some of your questions. Yeah, tomorrow's going to be a great show. No, apparently there have, which was very interesting. You would think that there would be brain damage, but there have been cases where people were clinically dead for 2 hours and there was no brain damage, which is very interesting because you have oxygen deprived. Um, that's kind of crazy. I think there was one I saw. I saw one on documentary. He'd been dead for some time. Yeah. Why do some people have a hell experience of hell? Well, I believe personally, I believe that hell exists, and I think there's a lot of people who don't want to believe it, but I do. So we do have there's a case. I think in 1740. It's a pretty old case in 1740 that had occurred where someone actually died and came back. But of course, when you're talking about even then, um, the medicine wasn't as it is today. So I guess we can. Why do some not experience it? That's a great question. Why did some people experience nothing? Well, the thing is if there are many people who have been clinically dead who've experienced nothing at all. Now, there are many things that can be attributed to that. I don't know how long they were dead. I don't know how long. I just don't know. So, yeah, that's right. The book 23 Minutes in Hell. That's true. Well, see, Rooney. Rooney says, "Why would Jesus be faceless?" Actually, there are several people who actually have seen Jesus and have actually reported of what he looked like. There was a little girl who was actually blind, and she had passed away. She was clinically dead. She saw Jesus. She came back, and she was able to draw a picture of what she saw, of what Jesus looked like. So, flying in the heavens. I don't know. I think I don't know. I don't know if you're talking about if you had a near death experience or not. Yeah, multiple NDEs are really interesting, but they're also rare, according to Dr. Long. Now, keep in mind that when you're talking about near death experiences, you have there. Okay, people will pass out and they'll say that they had a near death experience. Well, there's a difference between there's a difference between what's called OBE, which is out of body experience, and near death experience. So those are not the same thing. People get them confused. So for many people will experience an out of body experience if they have trauma, but they still have brain activity. When you're clinically dead and you're flatlined, and you have that's an NDE where you are flatlined. There is nothing there's no EK, there's nothing, there's no activity. Not on the brain, not on the heart. So people get that, you having a trauma or people tell me, well, I was in the hospital or I was sent to the emergency room. And then I asked them, were you flatlined? Did you still have brain activity? Well, yes. So there was trauma, but there was still brain activity and they had an out of body experience. Dr. Long explained that people get that confused. The difference between out of body experience, which can happen, which is interesting, can happen when you have trauma. So let's say somebody had a reaction to a medicine that they took, okay? And the ambulance comes, picks them up, takes them to the ambulance, and they have an out-of-body experience. There have been a case, which is really interesting. I read a case where they were not clinically dead, so they didn't flatline. They still had brain activities. They had heart activity, but they had an out-of-body experience where they were able to rise outside of the ambulance. And they came back into the body and told the ambulance driver what number it was on the ambulance. Now, that technically doesn't define as an NDE because they were not flatlined. They still had activity in the brain. They still had heart activity. So many people, but that doesn't explain the out of body experience. You see, that doesn't explain that. So people can't dismiss that. And so there have been cases where people have an out-of-body experience that can't be explained anyway. Does this argue against a consciousness of soul that is distinguished? No, this actually, even with the out-of-body experience, and that's a great question about the consciousness of the soul. Having an out-of-body experience, or even an NDE. So if you have an OBE, out-of-body experience, or NDE, near-death experience, the fact is you leave your body and you're able to see things that you're not able to see from the perspective if you're lying, in an ambulance. So there is no explanation how somebody could leave their body, have an out-of-body experience, go above the ambulance and look at the number on top of the ambulance, and then be able to come back into the body and tell the ambulance drivers what number it was. There's no scientific explanation for that. None. So this is what that tells us, that the consciousness does not lie in the brain. The consciousness lies within the soul, and is the messages, the consciousness, the messages that gives to the brain stores the consciousness, but the consciousness, because that's what the people say, well, no, once the brain dead, you're no longer conscious. No, that's not correct. And the reason is we can say it's not correct is because people who have out-of-body experiences and near-death experiences are completely conscious. They're completely aware. Completely aware. And because of that, consciousness exists outside of death. So that's a great question. That's what people can't explain. Because if you're able to see, and if you're able to articulate what you saw, and you're able to collect data and think and gather the information and then come back and tell somebody what you saw, that's consciousness. Pretty cool stuff. It really is. It's very, very cool stuff. I want so badly to believe in the afterlife struggle. I understand. No, Kelly Fish. I understand Kelly Fish 27. I get it with yeah, and you're not being difficult. You just want so badly to believe in the afterlife, but you struggle. Kelly Fish and everybody else, Kelly Fish 27 and everybody, listen to me, okay? I swear to you on my life that I saw my deceased mother in 2015. And I swear to you on my life that it was not a dream, that I was fully conscious, 100% alert as I am right now. When I saw my mom, I absolutely 1,000,000% saw her. Nobody, I don't care who it is, nobody can convince me otherwise. Nobody. I was alert. I was awake. I know what a dream is. Matter of fact, I even had a dream one time that I won the lottery. And it felt real, folks. I mean, this was as real. This was as real as you can get, because let me tell you something. When I woke up and I realized it was a dream, I was ticked off. I was ticked, let me tell you. But when I saw my mom, Kelly Fish and anybody else, when I saw my mom, just like I'm talking to you right now, I'm fully alert, fully aware. That's exactly what it was on the day when I saw my mom. Oh yeah. Okay. So let's see. For asking, when did you see your mom pass on? Okay. Very, 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 very quickly, because some of you just joined us. In 2015, I had a scope, and my mom passed away in 2014. And I remember then just waking up. I saw the doctor to my left. He was freaking out. A loud noise was going on behind me. I couldn't turn around for some reason. I couldn't turn around. And the very brightest light was right behind him. A silhouette came up behind him. She beautiful, unbelievable. She placed her hand on his shoulder. He took a deep breath like that. He said something behind me. I don't know what he said. That noise went off. That person looked at me. She smiled, and I realized it was mom. I realized she was young, beautiful. The joy, my God, the joy, and the happiness. There's no word I can describe it. And she nodded, and she faded away. And apparently, when I got to the recovery room, I told Jennifer, my sister, I saw mom, I saw mom. My sister said, I know, the whole entire hospital knows. So you were screaming at the top of your lungs from the operating room to the recovery room that you saw your mom, that you saw mom. And Dr. Long, I had him on, and he said, there's no question you flatlined the loud machine. That was the anesthesiologist machine going off because you flatlined. And also there's a 0% chance, and he's a medical doctor. You have 0% chance of dreaming under propofol. Doesn't exist. It can't exist. 0. And the fact that you were screaming from the operating room to the recovery room that you saw your mom, you couldn't have faked that because you were still under anesthesia. So something happened. It's like, yeah, I know exactly what happened. I saw my mom. And I saw her. Very, very clear. Very clear. Just like I'm seeing this computer right here and I'm seeing this computer right here. That is how clear it was. And it was powerful. Yeah, I'm telling you, if I could, let me just see if I have a picture. Hold on. Because I described it to my sister. And I said, this is what she looked like. And I never seen this picture before. Never in my life have I ever seen this picture. Let me see if I can find it. I don't know if I can. But when I described her to my sister then said, well, that sounds like a picture that I have. And then she showed it to me. And I was like, that's exactly what, but imagine if you just radiate her face times 1,000,000% of joy and happiness. So let me try to scroll through these and I'll see if I can find it. Because I didn't know at first, I didn't recognize her. But then as I looked closer and closer, I realized it was mom. She was younger and just beautiful. So I'm just scrolling. I got thousands and thousands of pictures, of course. And when you're trying to find a picture and you can't find it, so hold on, I'll try to find it because I do want to show it to you if I can find it. This is the problem when you have thousands of pictures. Yep. I have a bunch of pictures from the Ghost Adventures when I was on Ghost Adventures at Bobby Mackey, so I have to go through all that. And just bear with me, everybody. I should have brought the picture in. I don't think I have it with me over here. Not that you're going to recognize her because none of you probably know my mom, but Shannon, I don't know if Shannon, she's watching, I think, but so I'm trying to find the picture of my mom in this, where I saw Jennifer, or I think Emily or Jennifer, one or the other, they showed it to me. This is the problem when you have thousands of pictures. And I also have thousands of pictures of investigations too. So I have to make sure I investigate and take the pictures and man, I can't find it. I'll find, I'm sure, afterwards. What I'll do is tomorrow we're going to go live and I'll show the picture tomorrow if I can find it because I don't want to sit here and scroll through. See, this is my mom. That's what she looked like there. That's not the mom. That's not what she looked like. But that's a picture of my mom or our mom. So that's a picture of her right there. And then, but when I saw her, she didn't look like that. She looked, but now I really want to show it to you. Don't you hate that when you were trying to find something? Because I had it, but then, oh, here it is right here. There. That's what she looked like, but radiating joy. See that picture, it doesn't really, it's a million times more joy than that. So there, a million times more joy. That really doesn't, that's what she looked like, but bright. I mean, man, it was the joy in her, just the joy in her face, the peace. I don't know. Yeah, she's a beautiful woman. She really was. But when I saw her, like I said, I didn't recognize her at first, and I guess it was because number one, she looked younger, but it was just her, and I don't know the joy. I can't describe it. Euphrates is not dried up. That's actually a false story. I talked about that in my revelation. Euphrates is not drying up, folks. People are saying that just to scare people. It's a lie. The director of environmental studies in Israel has said that the Euphrates will dry up usually probably by 2045. But no, it is not dried up. That's not a true story. It's purposeful misinformation to scare people to get likes and to make a paycheck. Mm. Yeah, Grace, she did. I would describe her as looking like an angel. Yeah. Bet he drives a Mercedes from the donations that are given. Actually, bet you probably shouldn't judge and actually don't drive a Mercedes. I drive a 12-year-old car. So, and I don't get paid. And I actually, I don't charge. I actually pay out of my own pocket to go to people's homes. So perhaps maybe before you judge, maybe you should show a little respect because I haven't disrespected you. So I don't know. It's sad. It's just sad people have to, be hateful. I don't understand it. I don't. I understand, but I do understand why people. But I do understand why people are sick and tired, and because I am too, sick and tired of the pastors driving around in Rolls Royce and Mercedes and Bentleys and having private jets when people who go to their churches are barely able to put food on the table. So I agree. I agree with that statement. However, before you make a universal statement saying, well, I bet he likes to drive around his Mercedes, perhaps maybe you should get to know me a little bit and know that I've actually taken a vow of poverty and that I've never charged for the ministry and I haven't charged in 2 decades and I don't get paid for being clergy. So I think we kind of need to slow down on judging people and actually learning, you know, Oh, I know lyric, but that's what someone was talking about. I don't know. I did not get the transmission fixed. No, I'm just probably going to have to look at a junkyard and see if I can get to a junkyard and maybe a pull apart kind of a thing with a buddy of mine that's a mechanic. I don't know. That's the only thing. So I just don't know. Yeah, I don't charge. I don't believe in charging doing this ministry. So what I do is I pay out of my own pocket to get to people's homes. So if they live in another state, I have to come up with the money to get there because I don't charge them. So I appreciate that. That's nice of you. Thank you. Thank you very much. GT, yeah, and I do. Yeah, I appreciate that. Um, argue against a soul that is independent from the what? Personality. Thank you. That's very nice of you, GT. Um, someone was asking a question about the NDEs, but I couldn't get it. Oh, you lost your partner? I'm so sorry. Oh, the brain. Well, there's been people who've been clinically dead that were actually after 10 minutes. There's no brain activity. So because the brain is deprived of oxygen. So because of that, there is no brain activity, even if you have mind altering drugs. If there's no brain activity, there's no brain activity on the EK. There's nothing. Yeah. So okay. Okay. So everybody wants so what? Maybe it's an older model Mercedes. I don't own a Mercedes, folks. I don't. Although I wouldn't know what to do if I owned a Mercedes. I own a 12-year-old car, and it's yep, 12 years old. Yeah, 12-year-old car. That's what I own, and it's not a Mercedes. So, but I just don't. I don't like. I do get very very upset when I do see pastors, walking around and driving Bentleys and Rolls Royce cars and having private jets. I don't like that. That to me, how can you talk about humility when you're driving a Rolls Royce and you call yourself a pastor? That's not humility. So I don't agree with that. It is expensive to fix. Yeah, because it's a CVT transmission. For those of you who CVT, there's a pain in the rut row. Okay. Familiar spirits and actual family who have passed. Okay. Yeah. Someone's talking about familiar spirits and demons. First of all, understand. I know people are going to disagree with this, and that's fine. But I can only tell you from what I experienced as an investigator on cases. I do not believe that all spirits are demonic. I just simply don't believe that. And but first of all, Scripture says you must test the spirits anyway. So why are we testing spirits if every spirit is demonic? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And furthermore, as I mentioned also in Scripture, that when Jesus walked on water, the disciples thought they were terrified because they thought they were seeing a ghost. And when Jesus was crucified, he appeared to them and they were terrified and they thought they were seeing a ghost. So it tells us that the disciples had the concept of what ghosts were. So when it's demonic, you don't need a psychic. You don't need anybody to tell you that there's a demon present. It is overwhelming. It is intense. It is heavy. It is oppressive. There is extreme oppressiveness when there's a demonic entity that's present. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And your body, your sixth sense will tell you, get out of there. Something's not right. I have been to many locations where there was paranormal activity and there was zero experience or feelings or a feeling of dread, oppression, nothing at all. Nothing, just the opposite. So I just disagree with, and I'm telling you, I disagree as somebody who actually has investigated cases. So I've been for 2 decades as an exorcist. The first place I investigated was Waverly Hills 35 years ago. So I've been in the field for a long, long time. I just disagree with the theory that all demons are, all spirits are demons. I can't. Janelle, the problem is I have over 12,000 messages on TikTok. It's best private on Facebook. I can get to you. You can go on my link tree there and just go to my Facebook page. But, well, thank you very much, Rudy. I appreciate that. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Here's the deal. We don't know until we die. So anybody says, I disagree with you, you're wrong. Okay, well, when did you die and how do you know? Well, I'm giving you my opinion. Well, that's an opinion. And I'm giving you an opinion based on my experience as an exorcist, based on my experience as an investigator. And I've actually investigated cases. I not just watch television and not have an opinion on it. I am actually present. I'm there. So people always say, well, you're wrong. And then I say, okay, well, let's talk about your experience. When was the last time you investigated? Never. So you've never investigated a haunting? No, ever. Okay. And when was the last time you read a book on demonology? Never. So you're just giving an opinion based on what? Just an opinion? Well, I mean, then that's irrelevant to me because unless you're giving an opinion based on your experience, I'm going to listen to that. But if you're going to give an opinion just because you just grabbed it out of the air and just because you were told, well, that's, so no, I don't believe that. Yes, I have. We have. As a matter of fact, the church community that I had in Louisville, St. Christopher's, was a very old church. And let me tell you something, that place, and I never felt threatened, but boy, did I ever felt like man, oh man. We were doing, preparing for Mass. I don't know if it was midnight Mass. I thought it was because it was late. And I remember Elizabeth was in the choir loft and they were preparing for singing. And I was at the altar preparing, everything. I looked up and I saw a man. I couldn't completely see the whole entire everything, but I saw a man come and sit right down in the chair next to Elizabeth, and I thought, why is somebody upstairs? We haven't opened the door yet. That the doors were locked. And so I looked down, I was getting some other stuff, and then I looked back up, and he was gone. Gone. Completely not there. But I clearly saw a man. I clearly saw 100% a man sitting right there at that chair. And but I never felt threatened there, but I certainly did feel there was a television show, The Haunted Woods, or The Woods Are Haunted, or something like that, where there was an old church. I think this was in Texas. I'm not for sure, but apparently I don't know if you guys saw that, but there was some really violent activity in this church. I would love to go there. I don't know why am I so thin? Well, appreciate it because I'm exercising and drink lots and lots of water and no carbs, no sugar, and I just didn't want to be unhealthy. Yeah, did you see that? Do you know where that was? Do you know what state that was in? I would love to know where that is because I would go there. I'd go there in a heartbeat. I tried to find out a little bit. Someone told me it was in Texas. Absolutely. Now, can you ask the spirit to leave? Well, certainly what I do. Okay, so that's a great question. And I believe in human spirits because I don't believe everything is not demonic. I don't care what anyone says, folks. I'm telling you, I'm not telling you an opinion. I'm telling you the data based on the fact that I work cases, that I'm there. I'm the one taking the phone calls. I'm the one going to people's homes. I've been doing it for over 20 years. There's a difference between a human spirit and a demonic. There just is. And when I go to a place that is not violent activity, I will begin to pray on behalf of the repose of the soul that's there. Ask God for forgiveness. Ask for the intercession of the guardian angels to guide them to heaven. And most of the time, it's a beautiful, beautiful experience. As a matter of fact, Bishop David was with me. There was a home. There wasn't violent activity, but there, things were being moved, and they heard noises, and they just wanted this whatever it was to go. So we were in this home, and it was in the middle of the summer. It was 95 degrees in this house. In Kentucky, the humidity gets terrible here. It was really hot, so the air conditioning wasn't working in this house. So we were there, and I believe we were I want to see the dining room. I can't remember. It was in between the dining room and living room, I think. But we were all there, and we began praying for the repose of the soul. So we prayed the Our Father. We asked for the intercession of Saint Michael, for their guardian angel to come and help, for our Heavenly Father forgive their sins. The minute we did that, it felt like someone had turned the air conditioner on right at our feet, and every one of us, I think it was like 8, maybe 10 of us there, and we were all praying in the circle, that we felt this whirlwind in our feet, and it got cold, considerably cold, measurably cold. I had one of those temperature gauges, and I did it in the wall, and it was like 95 degrees, and I went to the floor, it was 65 degrees. Now that's dramatic. So that's the type of data I'm talking about. So it's not just an opinion. So I can tell you what we all experience the same thing. It's like this wind all around our legs. It got very cold. The temperature dropped, and then we can feel it kind of go up and then just disappeared. It was not a heaviness. It was not it was not an aggressive. It was a very peaceful. But we were able to gather data to show something is going on. Something paranormal, something supernatural is occurring. And when we are to gather that data, especially with the temperature changes, that's irrefutable. And it was, we saw it. Do you believe we are the ones bringing poltergeist activity because of our own fears and not other spirits? Yeah. Lyric, actually, poltergeist means noisy ghost. From my experience, I have found that it's not a ghost at all. At all. And and I only say this because, and people say poltergeist is demonic. No, I have been to homes where it was poltergeist activity. I performed the minor rite of exorcism, and it did nothing. I mean, there was no violent activity. There was no violent reaction. There was nothing. Poltergeist is just energy that someone is going through extreme emotional stress, and they're causing activity to occur. For example, I've had poltergeist cases where I remove that person from the home, the activity will stop. You bring them right back in, the activity increases. Now, keep in mind, people say, well, it could be a demonic attachment. You're still going to have demonic infestation. So even if that person leaves, you'll still have demonic infestation in the home. And the moment you begin praying, that's a form of provocation. You're going to have activity. So that did not happen. Nothing registered, nothing. So you bring the person right back in, the activity starts all over again. So I have found that with poltergeist activity, and again, I've talked about this before, poltergeist energy is not science fiction. How many times have I said this? You're walking down the street, someone's walking towards you, that person is emitting that negative energy. You don't know them, but you know you don't want to know them, and you walk away. In as much as someone walks into a room, they don't have to say a word. Their mere presence, people flock to that person. That's positive energy. That is energy. We all emit energy. I can be around you, for example. I could be right in front of you and going, that's energy. You are receiving the energy that I am projecting onto you, meaning disgust, meaning I don't like you, meaning I don't want to be here. That's all energy. Einstein even explained we are all energy. And so when you release the negative energy, that extreme emotion, especially if you're going through extreme emotional stress, that's what happens. And as a matter of fact, what's interesting with poltergeists, with the majority of cases that are poltergeist, appliances will catch fire, light bulbs will explode. And that's why I always tell people, if you have poltergeist case, if it looks like a poltergeist case, to unplug appliances and to remove curtains away from the electrical sockets. So again, this is, if it's demonic and I begin praying, then there's going to be an aversion. There's going to be a reaction. But when it's a poltergeist and I begin praying, nothing happens. There's no reaction. That's just my experience. So therefore, I conclude that this cannot be demonic. Now, can a lower ranking demonic entity attach itself to a poltergeist energy? Absolutely. Yeah. No question about it. Certainly it can, but it doesn't have to. But it can. It most certainly can amplify the activity. But that's just what I've experienced as an exorcist. Well, how can a church be haunted? Well, I'm just going to say, just because, understand that the devil can quote scripture too. And there's a lot of people in this day and age that I'm watching. It certainly don't seem like they're preaching the gospel. What they're preaching is that pocketbook. What they're preaching is what's called prosperity gospel, which is blasphemy. Prosperity gospel means the more money you give to a ministry, the more God's going to bless you. And the less money you give to the ministry, the less God is going to bless you. That's blasphemy. Jesus never taught that. So just because someone is behind the pulpit doesn't mean they're actually preaching the gospel. And you just have to be very, very careful about that. It really is. I mean, I've seen a lot of people do some pretty bad things and call themselves pastor. And just because someone used the term pastor doesn't mean that they're a pastor. Okay. Nope. I studied for the Roman Catholic priesthood for 6 years. Studied with the Benedictines, studied with the Jesuits. Well, I believe there are demonic entities, absolutely, that have people have an attachment. No question about it. No question. Hypocrisy. Okay. Anyway, if you're going to say hypocrisy, then you're going to have to explain what your credentials are and how many years you've studied in the seminary and what degrees you have, and then you can actually talk to me without throwing. See, that's what people ask me. People ask me about, do I believe people have demonic attachment? Well, look at TikTok. How many people have called me vulgar names? Vulgar names. said some pretty slanderous comments, actually, which is illegal. That's not protected under the freedom of speech. It's actually illegal. But when people who don't even know me say some pretty nasty things, I mean, really slanderous comments, and then people want me to convince you that the demons exist. If that's not demonic, I don't know what that falls under ordinary demonic activity. You may here's the deal. You may not agree with me, and that's okay. I may not agree with you. But to attack someone's character because you don't agree with them and to be nasty and say slanderous comments, that's demonic. That's ordinary demonic activity. That is exactly what it is. Because they don't go to any other place. They don't go to see. The thing is, I never go to anybody who's a Lutheran or evangelical or Methodist or Baptist or Jewish or agnostic. I never go to their lives. Never, ever do I go to their lives and call them a hypocrite. Never. I don't do it. They may disagree with me on things, and that's okay. There's nothing. We all have disagreement. But that doesn't make them a hypocrite. Doesn't make them a false teacher. They just have a different theology than I do. I just think it's so sad that we can't learn from one another instead. But that is typical, ordinary demonic activity. When someone does that, that falls under anger and hatred. Let me say this to you. People who are happy in life, they don't go around being hateful to others. You need to understand that. So if people are trolling you, people who are happy, they don't go around trolling people. People who are happy in life are at peace. Live and let live. They don't go around trying to harm other people. Emotionally, verbally, physically, they just don't. People who are hurtful, people who are not happy, that's the people that do that. And so we pray for them. That's what we do. So there we go. Okay. Any other questions that you guys have? When I mean at peace is, for example, you may not agree with me on theology. You may not agree with me on political issues. You may not agree with me on those, and that's okay. I'm at peace with that because I'm at peace with my faith. So I don't have to project my insecurities onto you. So if you say, well, I'm agnostic, okay. I mean, I don't have to agree with you. I'm not going to attack you. I'm not going to attack your character. As someone say, I'm an ultra liberal or I'm an ultra conservative. Okay. That's your right. I'm not going to attack your character because of it. See, that's what I mean by that, by be at peace. You're at peace with who you are. And someone who is at peace with who they are in life don't go around trying to harm other people verbally or physically. They just don't. They just don't. Let's see. GTS Bishop, I'm an atheist Satanist you spoke to last week. You're a good man with good values. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. And see, that's the thing. We don't have to agree with one another. We don't have to. But what we can do is share our experiences, our life experiences. And then we can learn from one another. For the love of God, can we please just learn from one another? Maybe we can actually learn that, hey, this person has a different perspective. It doesn't make it any less valuable than yours. And see, when you tell somebody your life experience is less than mine, that's a judgment call, and you have no right to make that judgment. So again, I have friends from all walks of life. I have friends that are pagans, that are Wiccans, that are agnostic, that are atheists, that are Satanists, that are Muslim, that are extreme conservative, that are extreme liberal, that are moderate. I have friends from all walks of life. We respect each other's point of view, and we have conversations. We learn from each other, and we're at peace with who we are. But I will promise you, if a person is at peace with themselves, they will not attack you. They won't. So there we go. All right. Yeah, right. A healthy debate. Hate creates negative energy. Eh? Well, thank you very much there, Boris. Let's see, what is this? Movies. Okay. So Spencer G87, Bishop James, how do you feel about movies like The Rite and The Exorcist? Actually, Father Gary Thomas, he's a Roman Catholic priest. I had him on my show. He is actually Father Gary Thomas. You can check him out online. He is actually, I think he's in California, who the movie The Rite is made from. It's from his life. And so when I had him on, I talked to him about The Rite. I think The Rite is an amazing movie. If you want to see what exorcists go through, you need to watch The Rite. You need to watch The Rite. Now, I worked with Lionsgate on Pray for the Devil, the movie called Pray, Prey, Pray for the Devil. So I worked with them on that movie. That they had some very intense scenes in that movie, quite remarkable as far as the credibility. But I think people need to. The thing is, here's what I don't watch a lot of I don't watch a lot of these possession movies, and that's primarily because I lived them as an exorcist. So I really and a lot of times when I watch them, I get so irritated and frustrated because some of them are just so plain stupid, and it's like, oh. So for me, the theologian in me is kind of like, oh, really? Come on. Just like Stigmata, the movie Stigmata. I can't watch that movie. It drives me nuts. The whole concept, the movie the Stigmata, that it's a curse. That is so idiotic. Every documented case of people who have the Stigmata, they never considered a curse. Never. It's very pious, very holy people who have the Stigmata. So that whole idea of the movie Stigmata, I can't watch it. I can't watch it. It drives me crazy. Oh yeah, so you're a cop, yeah, for 20 years, 23 years, and don't watch a lot of cop movies. Yeah. Well, thank you for your service. So yeah, that's the thing. I don't really watch a whole lot of these movies. Yeah. You like Stigmata, and see, some people like it. I guess again, that's why I was saying the theologian side of me. I guess from an entertainment value, I could see where people will like it, but as an exorcist, I'm when I watch these movies, I'm very critical because I know the rite, I know what happens during the rite, and so when I see something that is like, oh, one of these, oh, you're okay. Well, thank you, Shannon. I appreciate you being. So Shannon's going to be going live tomorrow. Can a Protestant be redeemed? Absolutely. And we say, but the question is, can a Protestant be redeemed? Implies that they are not redeemed. And that, again, goes into judgment. Because, look, if you're Methodist, if you're Protestant, if you're evangelical, if you're Lutheran, if you're Old Catholic, if you're Roman Catholic, folks, remember, St. Paul wrote to the Corinthians in the first century. Because in the church at Corinth, people were saying, if you're not a follower of Apollos, who was a bishop at that time, Bishop Apollos, you're not a real Christian. A group over here was saying, no, if you're not a follower of Cephas, Peter, then you're not a real Christian. And then this group over here was saying, no, if you're not a follower of St. Paul, then you're not a real Christian. And then the fourth group over in Corinth were saying, no, if you're not a follower of Jesus only, then you're not a real Christian. There were divisive groups in the church of Corinth. And St. Paul actually wrote to the church of Corinth saying it's not about the minister. It is about what connects every one of us. The fact that we believe that Jesus Christ is our personal Lord and Savior. Denomination is one thing, but that's exactly what happened in the church of Corinth. That's exactly what happened. And we can't, well, thank you very much, Jennifer. So we can't do that. We cannot have that divisiveness. And absolutely, Hetty. Absolutely. Well, Panda 19, do watching movies like The Exorcist risk inviting entities? It certainly can. If you have demonic infestation, then no question. And I wouldn't encourage it. And I don't think any exorcist would. I don't know why yeah. Thank you very much there, Ray. Yeah, I don't know why all those smiley things. Was Emily Rose possessed? I actually am very, very familiar. Actually, I have the case file of Emily Rose. Her name is Annalise McKell. Yes, I am convinced without question, that she was possessed. I am also convinced that she suffered from grand mal epilepsy. And I am also convinced that there was major neglect from the exorcist as well as the family for stopping her medication. That they should have stopped the medication. They should have stopped the exorcism immediately. Immediately. Well, because she was unbelievably, her body was failing. There's one report she was 68. Okay, she was 68 pounds when she died. That's malnutrition, dehydration. That was unacceptable. For those of you who are on Spreaker, I'm going to say good night to you guys, and thank you for being here. Remember, folks, I always remind you, hang tight with me, TikTok. I'm going to stay with you guys for a little bit. Remember, I always remind you, your value does not decrease based on someone's inability or refusal to see your worth. Remember, you're priceless, and never let anybody convince you otherwise. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, KGRADB. Good night.
The Sacred Division has been brought to you by Bishop Long's online paranormal course. Learn demonology, angelology, paranormal studies, and genealogy. It's 100% online, and you learn at your own pace. Please go to www.bishopjameslong.com and click on the paranormal course link.